For fans of the horror genre, the VHS franchise has been a treat ever since it came out in 2012. Producer Brad Miska created one of the best horror anthologies out there with jump scares of all types for audiences. Whether you like supernatural activities, human threats, or alien encounters, these found footage shorts have got you covered. I mean, we've got directors like Ty West and David Bruckner working on it. Of course, there is tough competition over which short stands out from the rest the most. Well, that's exactly why we're here today, listing the 20 best shorts from the VHS franchise and ending with our personal favorites. Let's get right into it, because it's going to be a fun one.
I don't.
How much does it cost to tell your future?
I think it costs $1, but remember the...
Second Honeymoon, 2012. Vacation murder is one of my favorite subgenres, and Second Honeymoon, written and directed by Ty West, does a pretty good job at it. This segment is considered to be one of the most unnerving from the first installment, and thanks to the House of the Devil, we already had a lot of faith in Ty. We learn the story by watching personal video footage of a young married couple, Stephanie and Sam, who were traveling through Arizona. They took a break for the night at a stop named the Wild West Junction, and Stephanie encountered one of those creepy robotic fortune tellers who predicted that she would soon unite with someone she loved, which was extra weird because her husband was right there. Little did she know that that fortune would soon come true. After returning to the motel, the couple ends up having an argument, understandable, when somebody suddenly knocks at the door. In a very Stranger-style moment, Sam found a young woman who requested a ride with the couple the next day. Cut to midnight when Sam and Stephanie are fast asleep and an intruder breaks into their room, turns on the camcorder, and wait for it, films themselves stroking Stephanie's butt with a switchblade. The mysterious person then steals money from Sam's wallet and even dips his toothbrush in the toilet. I mean, that's messed up, even for a creepy midnight pervert. Sam and Stephanie don't wake up for any of this, sleeping through the entire event, and the next day on their drive, Sam finds that some of his money is missing. He accuses Stephanie of stealing it, though she tried to convince him otherwise. That night, the intruder comes back and repeatedly stabs Sam in the neck with the switchblade. The camcorder then shows us that it was the same girl who asked for a lift, and upon removing her plastic mask, she reveals herself to be Stephanie's lover. The two are then seen driving away as Stephanie asks whether she erased the footage from the camera. Poor Sam. The sick thing that happened to Emily when she was younger, 2012. Alright, alien lovers, let's get hyped. And no, that's not technically a spoiler, because the way this short story unfolds isn't something you'd see coming in 100 years. We have James, an aspiring doctor who, through a series of video chats, was told by his girlfriend Emily about an odd bump on her arm. It reminded her of an accident she had when she was young. Soon, Emily would be more concerned about her present after finding a ghostly, childlike entity rushing into her room and slamming the door. The simple answer would be that Emily's apartment was haunted, and she thought exactly that. She witnessed this spectral figure again and finally talked to her landlord, who informed her that no kid had ever lived in the complex, and also nobody had ever died there. While discussing this with James, she grew irritated with the bump on her hand and tried to cut into it. James urged her to stop, fearing the wound would get infected, and promised to check it out when he visited next week. That probably would have been the end of it for James had he not witnessed more of these entities the next night when Emily fell asleep, leaving her laptop open. What James encountered was scarier than any horror flick. Trust us on this. They were aliens, yes, no brownie points for guessing that. However, James saw these extraterrestrial beings surgically removing a fetus from Emily's torso, which was being used as an incubator to form human-alien hybrids. The bump on her hand was actually a tracking device. The aliens erased her memory, and a badly injured Emily believed she had sustained the wounds from wandering into traffic. She told James that the doctor had diagnosed her as schizoaffective, told James that he deserved a better girlfriend. Unfortunately, the next girl James met also had that same goddamn bump on her arm, revealing that the aliens were using multiple women for their mission. 10/31/98, 2012. This one is an OG horror-coded short. Halloween, possession, exorcism, and the expertise of the filmmaking collective Radio Silence. 10/31/98 is one of the scariest VHS shorts to date. It was Halloween night in 1998 when four friends, Chad, Paul, Tyler, and Matt, headed to a Halloween party. They took the festivities seriously, and they were dressed as the Unabomber, a Marine, a nanny cam, and a pirate respectively. Unfortunately, the group ended up at the wrong location, and instead of finding a party, they were now at an abandoned house. Still, it was Halloween, and coming across a spooky deserted house didn't instantly discourage them. They thought that this must be the location of the party and that they were just early. Even when they witnessed some strange occurrences, they dismissed them as haunted house attractions. Sounds like a ghost needs to knock some sense into them. Next, they encounter what appears to be an exorcism happening in the attic, and for no good reason, they join the group of men around a suspended woman to chant with them. Game on. The men angrily tell them to leave, but in no time, an unseen force pulls them into the darkness. The entire house then comes to life with poltergeist activities, and guess what the four men with the survival instinct of a peanut thought? They thought they should try to save the woman, and they do. They bring her down from the rafters, put her in the car, and drive away. The car suddenly stops, and the fools realize that the woman was no longer with them, but standing on the street, and then she disappears. Oh, and the car was stuck on a railway track. They tried desperately to start the engine or unlock the doors, but to no avail. An approaching train demolishes the car in a spectacular ending. 10/31/98 had everything to be the perfect Halloween special, except maybe Michael Myers. But hey, it still gets top marks in our books. Amateur Night 2012. There's a reason why we instantly fell in love with the VHS franchise. When they started in 2012, the showrunners dropped one gem after another, and Amateur Night is memorable for so many reasons. The creature effects, the shocking twists, and most importantly, a wonderful performance from Hannah Fierman as Lily. Oh, and also because three vile men get what they deserve. It starts with Shane, Clint, and Patrick renting a hotel room to invite women for sexual intercourse and record the encounter to make amateur porn videos. Clint had the camera hidden in his glasses. While bar hopping, Clint met an uncannily shy woman who told him, "I like you." Clint was set for the night, and so were his friends when they managed to convince another young woman, Lisa, to go back to their hotel room. Lisa, however, passed out in a drunken state while Shane tried to get it on with her, but was discouraged by Patrick. Lily, on the other hand, awkwardly seduced Clint, but Shane came onto her instead. This guy totally sucks and needs to learn to keep it in his pants. He starts getting forceful with Lily, and Patrick decides to join in, taking Clint's place, even though Lily clearly said that she didn't like him. Clint was the only one who noticed that Lily's feet had started to change into something clawed and scaly. Moments later, Patrick runs into the washroom with a large wound on his hand, yelling that Lily bit him. When he and Clint finally confront her, Lily has changed into a monster with fangs and starts to attack them. She kills Shane while the other two hide in the bathroom. She eventually also kills Patrick in a gruesome manner. Lily, in her fiendish avatar, tries to go down on Clint, and she starts growling angrily when he remains unresponsive. He manages to flee the hotel and seek help when suddenly, Lily, now a demonic winged creature, lifts him into the sky, and the video ends with Clint's glasses falling from his face. Amateur Night is an excellent watch, and its spin-off film, Siren of 2016, is also a good enough watch. A Ride in the Park, 2013. Directed by Eduardo Sanchez and Greg Hale, who are best known for their work on the Blair Witch Project, this short film revolves around a cyclist, Mike Sullivan. Mike affixed a camera to his helmet, and shortly after answering a call from his lover, Amy, goes for a bike ride through the woods. It's a pretty normal day for him, but suddenly things go downhill. He comes across a frightened, blood-covered woman who begs his help in searching for her boyfriend. Before Mike can figure out what's going on, the woman starts throwing up blood, and there they were. Zombies approaching, and suddenly the woman turns into one herself. She attacks and bites Mike right on the throat, but he manages to bludgeon her to death with a rock. It seems as though Mike didn't get the memo about zombie attacks, and we know that eventually he's going to turn into one too, no matter what he does. Not long after, while staggering through the woods, Mike turns into a zombie as well. Two cyclists come across his corpse and call emergency services, but Mike was now in full zombie mode. He kills the man, eats his body, and bites the woman, continuing the cycle. Or should I say, the bicycle? Woof, sorry about that one. Now, the zombie trio invades a young girl's birthday party and wreaks havoc, killing and creating more undead in turn. In no time, the festivities descend into total chaos until Mike accidentally butt dials Amy and begins to regain his humanity upon hearing her voice. Safe Haven, 2013. You know, despite the title, there's nothing safe here. In fact, this mini-horror film, written and directed by Timo Giajanto and Gareth Evans, shows one of the most terrifying cults in the genre. The story doesn't beat around the bush to reveal, oh, it's a cult, or anything like that. From the very beginning, we've got a film crew infiltrating a cult, Paradise Gates, in Indonesia in order to film a documentary. Interviewer Malik, his producer cum fiancée Lena, Malik's best friend Adam, and cameraman Joni make up this fateful team. They have numerous hidden cameras to capture the weird activities of the cult and also convince their leader, referred to as Father, to allow them access. A woman called Madame then takes them inside the cult's compound, where the walls were filled with bizarre symbols. What was even more unsettling was the presence of school children and women in eerie white clothes. Then came the truth, because the father didn't care one bit to hide it. He blatantly confesses that he slept with the women and children of the cult to purify them. Meanwhile, Malik learned that Lena was cheating on him with Adam and was now expecting a child. He walks away from the conversation and heads to the basement, where he finds a woman strapped to a chair with her womb carved out. She begins to scream and convulse, causing Adam to run. On the other hand, Father abruptly stops his interview with Joni when a bell rings, announcing it was the time of reckoning. Before Joni could get any answers, Father slit his own throat, followed by a massive suicide by the cult members through poison and gunshots. Malik too is shot by the cultists when Adam abducts Lena. When Adam tries to save her, he saw something that causes his soul to leave his body. Father was back. He was now soaked in blood, with the cult's symbol inscribed on his body and ruptured like an overripe watermelon. He tells Adam that it was fulfilled. He then finds Lena on an altar with the same symbol etched onto her body. He successfully kills Madame and the other women who are holding Lena down, but still couldn't save her. The demon that the cult worshipped, which somewhat resembles Baphomet, tears its way out of her body. He somehow got to his car, but was gravely injured by the demon who crashed through the window, and when he tried to crawl out of the wreckage, the demon looked at him and addressed him as his father. He then broke down in hysterical laughter and left us with a lump in our throats. Slumber Party Alien Abduction, 2013. Yep, another tale about otherworldly entities and yet another masterpiece. We remember Slumber Party Alien Abduction being pretty unique due to the dog. In this one, we've got an adorable fur baby with a camera strapped to his head, showing us how hell was breaking loose on a group of children through his point of view. After the parents of young brothers Gary and Randy leave on a romantic getaway, they invite a couple of friends to their large lake house and attach the camera to their dog, Tank. Basically, Gary and Randy wanted Danny and Sean's help to harass their elder sister Jen and her boyfriend Zach. Honestly, the brothers took their prank to a whole new level of nastiness by ambushing Jen and Zach with piss-filled water guns. They keep at it, startling the couple by blaring loud music and flashing lights. In their silly and frankly sick jokes, they fail to notice a gray alien hiding beneath the lake water, which, by the way, was genuinely scary. Meanwhile, Zach noticed suspicious figures outside the house and heard a deafening noise, which prompted him to arm himself with Jen's father's shotgun. However, before he could do anything, a group of aliens abduct him. Obviously, they don't stop with Zach either. The figures start pouncing on every member of the group, sealing them in their sleeping bags and throwing them into the lake. Somehow, Randy and Jen escape and try to resuscitate Gary when Tank unknowingly alerts the aliens through his barks. They run away towards what appears to be police sirens, only to realize it's a trap and the aliens kidnap Randy. The creatures are relentless in their pursuit of the children and don't stop. Jen is their next victim, followed by Gary, who's pulled into the air by a tractor beam from a spaceship. Sadly, he held onto Tank's leash a little too hard to save himself, but failed while the dog falls to the ground, slowly dying. Listen, I know it's a horror story, but couldn't they let the poor dog live? Parallel Monsters, 2014. 2014 was the year of VHS Viral, and it's generally considered to be the weakest in the series, but a couple of shorts still managed to steal our hearts. The first is Parallel Monsters, written and directed by Nacho Vigalondo. Nacho delivered one of the most intriguing and disturbing sci-fi horror entries, which, needless to say, had a brilliant plot. It follows the life and work of Spanish inventor Alfonso, whose newest pet project was an interdimensional portal, albeit still just a prototype. The portal opened to what seemed like his garage, and Alfonso encountered a copy of himself looking back at him. The prototype was successful, and any sane person would have gone back home to celebrate over a bottle of champagne, but when have we ever met a sane scientist in a horror flick? Overwhelmed by curiosity, Alfonso greets his other version and realizes that both Alfonsos were completely identical. They thus arguably make the worst decision ever and decide to trade places by crossing through the portal. Each would have their own cameras to explore the other's world for 15 minutes. And yeah, it's pretty obvious to everybody everybody watching that making that 15-minute deal was like making a 24-hour deal with Mephisto. In short, everything gets utterly horrifying. First, the original Alfonso meets his alternate reality wife, Marta, who is a copy of his original partner, but way weirder. She introduces him to two men, both named Oriole. It gets weirder. Film was playing in the living room with a sack of organs displayed at the center. This was a good enough cue for the real Alfonso to come back to his own world, but Marta ruins it. She had no idea about the identity switch, and thinking that this Alfonso was her real husband, Marta nonchalantly asks him to perform a satanic ritual with the Orioles. However, Alfonso's confusion caused them to leave, and soon he hears a loud droning sound. Alfonso discovers a huge blimp flying overhead, marked with an inverted cross, and broadcasting what sounds like demonic chanting. The picture is clear. The two universes follow totally opposite dominant religions. The Orioles could wait no longer and capture Alfonso, whose penis now looked like a fanged creature. He manages to stab one of the Orioles and flees into the house, where he finds the other Marta exposing a similarly fanged. He punches her in fear and tries to return to his own world, but the demonic universe's Alfonso found the original Marta sleeping and scared her upon revealing his own monstrous genitalia. He returns to the alternate universe, where his Marta mistakes him for the imposter, knocks him down, and lets her devour him while the real inventor closes the portal. However, he doesn't get a happy ending either. Bonestorm 2014. This one might not be as high quality as the last, but considering that VHS Viral was having a hard time, Bonestorm should be acknowledged for whatever contribution it was able to make to the installment. Honestly, the constant tension in the story, coupled with the cult practices, is what gets Bonestorm a spot on this list. The story goes something like this. Danny and Jason, two skateboarders from LA, perform various stunts, hoping to make an epic skateboard video one day. Encouraging them, rather pushing them into precarious situations, was their videographer Taylor, whose intention was to get the two injured or killed in an accident so he could sell the aftermath as a snuff film. Jason and Danny end up filming in Tijuana, Mexico after a fallout at the local skate park, and also they get their friend Sean to join them. On the brighter side, there was a prime skating location there, and the duo thought of finishing their video at that spot. After having their fair share of fun, they come across a flood control channel, and Taylor, being the jackass he was, urged them to do some stunts there. Danny injures himself, and just as he begins to bleed, there it is. A large pentagram drawn on the ground where his blood began to boil, and a mysterious woman they met earlier reappears. The woman goes berserk, tearing Taylor's arm off, although we got to admit he kinda deserved it, and more cloaked cultists attack the group for trespassing. The channel was their place of demonic worship. In the ensuing attack, the cultists die only for reanimated skeletons to rise with a monstrous roar and begin the assault all over again. Danny and Jason use fireworks to destroy the skeletons, and as they escape, the remaining skeletal creatures start devouring a wounded Taylor. Storm Drain 2021. After a 7-year-long hiatus, the VHS franchise came back with a bang in 2021 and swept us off our feet with some amazing shorts. We're going to talk about 3 entries from this installment, but Storm Drain has to be the first. Its impeccable practical effects and stifling ambiance marked VHS's glorious return. And of course, the creature plays a huge part as well. Chloe Okuno, famous from her work on The Watcher, and who was still an upcoming filmmaker, executed the narrative about a Channel 6 reporter, Holly Marciano. Holly and her cameraman Jeff were filming a story about the urban legend of the Rat Man and went down into a sewer drain, aka the town's storm drains, which was supposedly the creature's lair. And whoever tipped them off was absolutely right, because they did encounter a black slime-covered man there. Attempting to flee, the duo ends up deeper in the sewers and are captured by similar-looking people. A minister, whom Holly had interviewed, appears suddenly and declares that a new order would soon begin and summoned the Rotma. Holly finally realized that the Rat Man was actually some kind of a brutish deity. It vomits a liquid, which the minister pours onto Jeff's face, burning him to death. Holly screams as she's brought before Rotma, and the news cuts out for a commercial break, after which Holly's co-anchor explains that she's been rescued. Holly returns to work and, while reporting, begins to inadvertently say Rotma's name in the middle of sentences, ends up puking that same liquid onto her co-anchor's face, which slowly burns away. Holly cheerfully ends the segment by hailing Rotma. Rotma is easily one of the creepiest monsters we've seen in the VHS franchise, and the design team left no stone unturned to make our hearts skip a beat. Terror 2021. This Ryan Prowse directed VHS short is criminally underrated. Terror cleverly used creative storytelling to throw light onto some frighteningly real themes of political extremism. To be fair, the most creative part was probably the creature filled with explosive blood, yet the world's past and present are too volatile not to be a little afraid of this short. It revolves around a white supremacist group whose intention is to blow up a government building to reclaim America. One of them, Greg, also shoots a prisoner in their well-secured compound who turns out to be a vampire. The vampire was kept as prisoner and was repeatedly shot to siphon his blood, which was then injected into a rabbit. True to vampire genetics, the rabbit explodes in sunlight. This blood was supposed to be used as a bomb, but the night before their big day, the group was in severe chaos. Many died, and one even explodes after accidentally getting covered in vampire blood. The remaining ragtag team decides to kill the vampire, who manages to slaughter a few more before dying in the sunlight, causing the entire compound to explode. This film was set in the 90s with intentionally unlikable characters, and that too-close-to-home feeling made the audience root for the malicious plan to fail. The Subject, 2021. This one is crazy. We always have a soft spot for Indonesian horror, and Timo Tjahjanto surpassed our expectations with this action-packed body horror set in the context of scientific experiments. The film opens with an anonymous man waking up to find that his body had been replaced with robotic spider-like legs. He falls from his restraints and catches fire, but thanks to the eccentric scientist James Suhendra, the flames are quickly extinguished. The scientist then carries out a lobotomy on an unnamed woman with the initials SA and sedates a man dubbed Subject 98 when he wakes up too early. SA becomes a cyborg, while Subject 98 gets blades instead of hands. SA learns that James was the prime suspect in the case of a sudden disappearance and tries to undo her restraints, but is repeatedly beaten by him until a team of soldiers, along with their cameraman Jono, arrive and arrest him. James is shot dead, and the soldiers argue over what to do with SA because she was technically not human anymore, but then a blackout occurs and SA escapes. When a soldier shoots at the door lock, it triggers an explosion and James's backup plan is set into motion. Subject 98 wakes up and slaughters most of them. Ultimately, SA uses her strength to tear out Subject 98's brain and collapses next to Jono as her battery dies. However, security camera footage shows that she wakes up sometime later and leaves the lab. This story leaves you questioning humanity and bodily autonomy, and almost invariably, you find yourself rooting for the cyborg. Which, by the way, is even more upsetting because isn't that exactly what the world's moving towards? Ozzy's Dungeon, 2022. Those familiar with Flying Lotus's style of filmmaking, well, they know how wild the man can get. Ozzy's Dungeon is no exception, and it's easily one of the most unusual and somewhat gross segments found in the VHS world. Ozzy's Dungeon is actually the name of a game show where people engage in physical challenges to descend into the titular dungeon and meet Ozzy. Ozzy was supposed to grant any wish the winner wanted. One of the participants is Donna, who hails from a rundown neighborhood and hoped to win the game to help her poverty-stricken family. Unfortunately, she suffers a serious leg fracture and loses the competition when the host didn't stop the game to give her medical support. There's some serious Squid Game vibes here, but believe us when we say it's way scarier than that. Over time, Ozzy's Dungeon gets cancelled, and the show's former host finds himself stripped and locked in a dog cage in the basement of none other than Donna's mother, Deborah. As it so happens, Deborah groomed Donna to win the show at all costs, and after the mishap, she was ready for revenge. With the help of her husband Marcus, their son Brandon, and a crippled Donna, they put the host through a series of torturous versions of the challenges to film him. Right when he failed to comply, and Donna was about to inject him with a syringe full of acid, he caves in and offers to take the family to Ozzy. Who is Ozzy, you might ask? Wait for it. When they go to the empty studio where the show was previously filmed, they're led inside a cave where Ozzy is being worshipped by people dressed in the costumes of the show's contestants. Donna watches as Ozzy transforms into a humanoid creature who grants Donna's wish. They were no longer poor, they were dead. Yes, the devilish thing called Ozzy fires an energy beam through his eyes, which melts their faces while he laughs menacingly. God of Death, 2023. There were two shorts from VHS 85 which shook us, and God of Death is one of them. Honestly, we don't even know how to describe the best part about this one, but if I had to, it's probably the full-on Final Destination vibe. A massive earthquake hits Mexico in 1985 as a news crew is preparing for their morning telecast. It kills everyone except the cameraman, Luis, who is assisted by a rescue team. However, even the members of the rescue team have a tough time getting out of the building due to the aftershocks. One of them, Javier, was mortally wounded, and another member, Carla, had to expedite his death. The remaining crew, namely Eddie, Miguel, Carla, and Luis, then enter a crawl space where the walls are made of skulls, and there's a statue of Mictlantecuhtli, the Aztec god of death and the ruler of the lowest level of the underworld. Mictlan. Eddie is suddenly possessed by Mictlantecuhtli and kills Miguel. The god of death then takes shape behind Eddie, rips out his heart, and makes a meal out of it. Next, Carla succumbs to Mictlantecuhtli's influence, killing Luis, and the building collapses right then. Luis was destined to die. He just brought down the others with him. Chills. Dreamkill 2023. Believe us when we say this one's a standout. Dreamkill is on a whole nother level. It's set in the same cinematic universe as The Black Phone, and if that sets your expectations really high, believe us, this short won't disappoint you. The story takes place from a first-person POV, and we see a serial killer entering a woman's house. The assailant ties her up and brutally murders her as she was on the phone with the police. Enter the lead detective, Wayne Johnson, who recognizes the murder scene from a previous video of yet another murder. This video shows the killer entering a different house, fighting and killing another man. When they come to the crime scene, Wayne tells his partner, Bobby Blake, that he had already seen the murder on a tape received earlier. Wayne found out that it was Bobby's son, Gunther, who was sending out the tapes, but Gunther claimed that he saw the murders in his dreams and that they were being recorded on the tapes. Wayne wasn't buying this, but then Gunther explained how their family had the ability to see the future. And this is when Gwen enters the picture. Gwen, a character from The Black Phone, happens to be Gunther's cousin. Gunther then tells Wayne the story of how Gwen led the police to the place where Finney was being held by he happened to be involved with the victims of the previous murders, and when Wayne gets too close to finding the truth, Bobby shoots him dead. He then kills another person in the same way it unfolded in Gunther's dream. Gunther finally realized that his father was the killer, and when the police arrive, Bobby easily takes them down. However, Gunther wasn't having it anymore. He shoots Bobby in the head from behind and stands there frozen in a state of shock. Live and Let Die 2024. This was the third segment from VHS Beyond, and frankly, the first one that really interested us. The story was simple, but as they say, it's the storytelling that creates the magic, and Live and Let Die is a great example of that. The plot focuses on Zach, who goes skydiving with his wife, Jess, and best friend, Logan, to celebrate his 30th birthday. Before jumping, they see a large UFO and several fighter jets. Now, this would have already been an unforgettable birthday for Zach, who could have told his grandchildren about the time he saw an alien spacecraft, but sadly, he experiences the worst party crashers ever. Zach is strapped to Logan, but tragically, when the parachute opens, Logan is decapitated. He then frantically searches for Jess, but an alien suddenly attacks the group and kills her. Zach somehow escapes and hops onto a farmer's truck, who pretty rudely asks him to leave. However, the aliens were back and they kill the farmer. They also injure Zach, who was still trying to drive away from the nightmare when he got lifted up in the sky and was attacked by a horde of extraterrestrial creatures inside their spaceship. I know the acting could have been better in this one, but a good old-fashioned dramatic alien reveal always makes up for that. Ambrosia 2023. I know many of you might not agree with me that Ambrosia was one of the best VHS shorts, but come on, it was totally trippy, and its connection to another segment in the larger story made it worth the watch. A family celebration by the Wrigleys for their teenage daughter Ruth turns into a death spree. Ruth is filming the event with her cousin James, while their young relative Adam is playing with a water gun. The gun was supposedly given to him by some lady in an RV. You must be wondering what the occasion was? Well, the Wrigleys are celebrating a rite of passage Ruth completed, which required her to, shoot 7 people. The police aren't far off, though, and they raid the house. They shoot Ruth's family dead in the struggle, and the girl herself kills James because he was too afraid to fight. She then begins a shootout with the police, but is thankfully killed. All's well that ends well, right? Just some insane family drama. Well, hold my beer. As the coroner examines the bodies, Ruth suddenly gains consciousness and reveals that though she sustained fatal injuries, she was alive. Ruth is arrested and wails in pain. The most skin-crawling moment was when we realize who the lady in the RV was. She was one of Ruth's victims from her Lakeshore massacre, and the water gun she gave Adam was filled with that very lake's water. Ambrosia was an absolute roller coaster ride. Fur Babies 2024. This story remains unfortunately true to its title, but in an unexpectedly twisted way. Directed by Justin Long, Her Baby's premise is definitely interesting for a short film and has some of the best, or worst depending on your stomach, body horror elements. When animal rights activists Stuart, Miles, Christina, Pat, and Angela investigate Becky's apparent dog daycare center, they find some pretty questionable stuff. Becky explains that she keeps taxidermies of her past pets because she didn't have the heart to bury them. This would have added up if they hadn't noticed one dog, Gary, missing. Becky said she had special plans for him as he had died a noble death while defending her from a robber. In the meantime, her brother, Bo, takes Stuart and Angela to the basement, and Becky unveils what a monster she really was. She captured the duo to surgically turn them into half-human, half-dog hybrids. When the others break into the house to look for Angela and Stuart, they're mauled to death by two hybrids successfully created by Becky. One of them was Gary. One thing, Becky probably wasn't lying about Gary, because when a pirate tried to steal packages from Becky's front door, the dog-human killed him in an instant. Its inclusion in the larger framing narrative might be confusing, but as a standalone short, Her Babies is pretty freaky. Kidprint 2025. VHS Halloween had some really great shorts, and it was a little difficult to pick out just a few. Yet, we're sure everybody who watched it will understand why Kidprint made the list. Kidprint has a good deal of bloodshed and gore over its 20-minute plus runtime, but that's not exactly why it left an impression. Let me give you the plot first. This one's set in an American town during the fall of 1992, which was rattled by an unusual spike in the missing and murdered rate of children and teenagers. The only way to ID those victims was to reach out to Tim Kaplan, a local video store owner who filmed documentaries called Kidprints and had the information on the missing kids. He and his wife were shattered by the reports of these incidents and wanted to protect their two teenage daughters. When another young girl, Olivia, goes missing, her mother and the police ask Tim to go to his store and get Olivia's backup for Kidprint. And there it was. Tim found several monitors with tapes running of children, including Olivia being tortured, figured his employee, Bruce Dittman, was the culprit. Bruce was using Tim's videos to locate these children, psychologically and physically abuse and kill them right in the store when it was closed during the weekends. Bruce ambushes Tim, savagely beats him, then forces Drew's severed face onto him like a grotesque mask before fleeing. Olivia and Drew remain trapped in the same room. The kids thought that Tim was as sick as Bruce and end up killing him. They try to escape afterwards, only for Bruce to return and horribly kill them. When Tim's body was found, everyone believed him to be the murderer, and Bruce told the reporters that he would be taking over Kaplan Electronics and continuing Kidprint. The last scene shows a girl screaming in front of the Kidprint board, which means that Bruce never stopped. Kidprint is maybe the most upsetting short in the entire VHS franchise. I mean, the trauma just seeps into your bones. I need some fresh air after this one. Home Haunt 2025. Now, this is our vote for the best entry in the entire franchise. Micheline Pitt Norman and R.H. Norman did an outstanding job at fitting a lot of jump scares and body horror into this short while telling a character-driven story. They had to, because the premise is simple and pretty much like a Modern Family Halloween episode gone wrong. We have Keith, who loves setting up elaborate haunted houses for Halloween with his wife Nancy. However, their now teenage son Zach has outgrown this family tradition, but still, Keith pushes him to go pick up some decorations. Meanwhile, he sneaks into the back and finds a record labeled Halloween Horrors. He plays the record and opens his haunted house for the neighbors, but sadly, the music would turn out to be the root cause of every horrible thing that followed. Lights were going out suddenly, and monsters from the cutouts were coming to life, and they started killing most of the attendees. Nancy, Keith, and Zach somehow escaped the house, only for a witch to fly out of nowhere and take Zach's camera. This was followed by a rampage where the witch massacred trick-or-treating children, and the monsters at the entrance begin to break free. This segment is a different take on the typical haunted house story, but the makers did a great job at putting together goofy scares, like a good old-fashioned green witch with the perfect amount of gruesomeness. This was a fun but brutal watch. Alright guys, that's all for today. The VHS franchise has been a treat for horror lovers across the years, despite their occasional dips in quality and the years-long breaks. But yes, if you want to spook someone out, playing any of these segments is sure to get the job done. Personally, Dreamkill and Parallel Monsters would be our picks any day, but let us know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.